In the bustling heart of New York City, where skyscrapers pierced the sky like arrogant fingers, lived Elena Vasquez, a woman whose life had once been a fairy tale spun from silken diamonds. At 28, she was 7 months pregnant, her belly a gentle swell that carried the promise of new life. Her husband, Marcus Blackwell, was a self-made millionaire, the king of a chain of upscale restaurants that dotted the city's elite neighborhoods. Their marriage had begun with passion, stolen glances at a charity gala, whirlwind dates in private jets, and a proposal under the Eiffel Tower. But fairy tales, Elena was learning, often hid monsters in the shadows. It started with the late nights. Marcus would come home smelling of perfume that wasn't hers, his phone buzzing with messages he dismissed as business. Elena, ever the trusting wife, chalked it up to the stresses of expanding his empire. She focused on their unborn child, decorating the nursery in soft pastels and dreaming of family vacations. But doubt crept in like fog over the Hudson. One rainy afternoon, Elena decided to surprise Marcus at his flagship restaurant, La Belle Vie, a French-Italian fusion spot where celebrities dined and deals were sealed over vintage wine. She waddled in, her maternity dress flowing like a cascade of lavender, a bouquet of his favorite lilies in hand. The hostess, a young woman with sharp cheekbones and a knowing smile, greeted her coolly. Mrs. Blackwell. Mr. Blackwell is occupied. Perhaps you should wait in the back. Elena's heart skipped. The back. She pushed past, ignoring the protest, and entered the kitchen. Chaos reigned. Chefs shouting orders, flames leaping from stoves, the clatter of pots like thunder. And there, in the corner by the industrial sink, stood Marcus, his arm draped around a woman Elena had never seen before. She was stunning, with raven hair and curves that screamed confidence, dressed in a sleek black pantsuit that screamed power. Darling, Marcus said, his voice smooth as oil, but his eyes widened in panic. What are you doing here? The woman, Isabella, as Elena would later learn, smirked, her red lips curling. Oh, the wife. How quaint. What followed was a blur of words that shattered Elena's world. Marcus confessed, or rather, boasted. Isabella was his mistress, had been for months. She wasn't just any fling, she was a rising star in the culinary world, a food critic with connections that could elevate his restaurants to Michelin status. To prove his commitment, Marcus had devised a cruel plan. Elena, vulnerable and pregnant, would be demoted from trophy wife to lowly dishwasher in the very restaurant he owned. It was humiliation wrapped in practicality. He claimed it would keep her out of the way, while he paraded Isabella as his new partner, both in business and bed. You can't be serious, Elena whispered, clutching her belly as if to shield the baby from the venom. Marcus's face hardened, his millionaire facade cracking to reveal the narcissist beneath. I am. You're not the woman I need anymore. Too soft, too domestic. Isabella brings fire. You'll start tonight. Minimum wage, no special treatment. Consider it your contribution to the family business. Tears streamed down Elena's face as staff averted their eyes, pretending to chop vegetables. Isabella laughed, a sound like breaking glass. Don't worry, sweetie. I'll make sure the dishes are extra greasy. Elena fled into the rain, her lilies wilting on the sidewalk. She hailed a cab, sobbing directions to her childhood home in Brooklyn, a modest brownstone where her roots ran deep. But she wasn't alone in her despair. Elena had sisters, triplets, to be exact. Born minutes apart, they were a force of nature. Sophia, the eldest by 2 minutes, CEO of a tech startup that revolutionized AI-driven marketing. Lucia, the middle one, heading a fashion empire that dressed Hollywood's elite. And Gabriella, the youngest, leading a biotech firm on the cusp of curing rare diseases. The Vasquez triplets were legends in their fields, Forbes listed powerhouses who had clawed their way from immigrant parents' dreams to boardroom thrones. That night, Elena collapsed into their arms. The sisters, who had always been her shield, listened as she poured out the betrayal. Sophia paced the living room, her sharp bob haircut swinging like a pendulum. That bastard. He thinks he can treat you like trash. Lucia, with her designer glasses perched on her nose, scrolled through her phone. I've got contacts. We can ruin him socially. One call to my PR team, and his restaurants will be blacklisted. Gabriella, the scientist with a heart of steel, clenched her fists. No. We destroy him completely. Financially, emotionally, legally. He's messed with the wrong family. The triplets exchanged glances, a silent pact forged in their shared DNA. They had always been unbreakable, finishing each other's sentences, anticipating needs. Growing up poor, they had protected Elena, the baby of the family despite being the fourth sister born years later. Now, with their combined net worth eclipsing Marcus's, they plotted. Part 1 of their revenge began subtly, like the first notes of a symphony building to crescendo. Sophia dove into the digital realm. Using her AI tools, she hacked, not illegally, but through ethical channels, into Marcus's online presence. She uncovered emails, financial records hinting at tax evasion, and messages to Isabella that bordered on harassment if spun right. Look at this, Sophia said, projecting screenshots onto the wall. He's been siphoning funds from the restaurants to fund her lifestyle. Offshore accounts. Sloppy. Lucia handled the image. She whispered to influencers, leaked anonymous tips to gossip columns. Overnight, whispers spread. Marcus Blackwell, the charming restaurateur, was a cheater, a manipulator. Photos of Isabella at events surfaced, captioned with sly innuendos. New queen of La Belle Vie. Or homewrecker. One viral post from a fashion blogger Lucia knew amassed millions of views. Gabriella, ever the strategist, targeted the core, his health and empire. Her biotech firm had connections to regulatory bodies. She flagged potential violations at his restaurants, unsanitary conditions, perhaps exaggerated but based on Alina's kitchen glimpse. Inspectors descended like locusts. Meanwhile, she researched Isabella, discovering the mistress's own skeletons, a plagiarized review scandal from her early career. But the triplets knew revenge tasted best when personal. They convinced Elena to play along, just for a night. Show him you're not broken, Sophia urged. So, Elena returned to La Belle Vie, apron tied over her pregnant belly, hands raw from scrubbing. Marcus watched smugly as she toiled, Isabella barking orders like a tyrant. Faster, prego. Those plates won't clean themselves. Elena's tears mixed with soapy water, but inside, fire kindled. She texted her sisters. Now. The destruction unfolded. Sophia's AI bot flooded reservation systems, canceling bookings en masse. Lucia's network boycotted, celebrities pulling out. Gabriella's tip led to a health raid mid-dinner rush, inspectors finding violations that shut the place down temporarily. Marcus's phone exploded with alerts, stocks dipping. He had invested heavily in his chain partners bailing, Isabella furious as her reputation tanked. What the hell is happening? He roared, cornering Elena in the alley behind the restaurant. She straightened, wiping her hands. Karma, darling. Or should I say, my sisters? His face paled. Sisters. Those CEOs. Wait. The door burst open. Sophia, Lucia, and Gabriella strode in, identical in their fierce beauty, suits tailored to perfection. Sophia smirked. Hello, brother-in-law. Heard you've been busy. Lucia circled him like a shark. Treating our sister like a servant. Bold move. Gabriella stepped forward, her voice ice. But boldness without brains is suicide. Your empire. Crumbling. Your mistress. Exposed. And this is just the beginning. Marcus stammered, but the triplets weren't done. They had plans, lawsuits for emotional distress, asset freezes, public shaming that would leave him penniless. Elena watched, empowered, as her husband shrank before the women who had always been her strength. As the night ended, the sisters whisked Elena away, promising a future brighter than any millionaire's gold. The destruction had begun, but part 1 was merely the spark. The fire would consume everything Marcus held dear. Word count. 10:28 As the heavy kitchen door swung shut behind her, Elena wiped the sweat from her forehead with the back of her hand, the sudsy water from the sink soaking through her apron. At 8 months pregnant, every movement felt like a battle, her swollen belly pressing against the edge of the counter as she scrubbed yet another stack of greasy plates. The restaurant's bustling dining room was just beyond the wall, filled with laughter and clinking glasses, but here in the back, it was a hell of steam, shouts, and endless drudgery. How had it come to this? Victor, her husband of 5 years, the self-made millionaire who once whispered promises of forever, had turned her life into this nightmare. It started 6 months ago when she discovered his affair with Lila, the sultry marketing executive half his age. Victor didn't deny it, instead, he flaunted it. "You're boring now, Elena," he'd sneered, eyeing her growing belly with disdain. "Lila brings excitement. And let's face it, you're not the trophy I need anymore." The divorce papers arrived the next day, but Victor wasn't content with just casting her aside. He owned the upscale Italian bistro where this all unfolded, and in a twisted act of cruelty, he forced her into the role of dishwasher. "You need a job, don't you? For the baby," he'd said with a mocking smile, knowing she had no savings, no family nearby, or so he thought. Every Friday night, he'd parade Lila through the restaurant, seating her at the best table, ordering lavish meals while Elena slaved away, catching glimpses of them through the pass-through window. Tonight was no different. Victor's voice boomed from the dining room, toasting to new beginnings, with Lila giggling beside him. Elena's hands trembled as she plunged another dish into the scalding water, tears mixing with the suds. But unbeknownst to Victor, the tide was about to turn. Elena wasn't as alone as he believed. She had sisters, triplet sisters, to be exact, Sophia, Isabella, and Gabriella. Born minutes apart, they were identical in appearance but forged in fire, each rising to become CEOs of powerhouse companies. Sophia led a tech giant specializing in AI-driven security systems, Isabella helmed a global fashion empire, and Gabriella dominated the real estate market with luxury developments worldwide. They had scattered across the globe after college, building their empires, but blood bound them tighter than any boardroom deal. Elena had kept her humiliation secret at first, too ashamed to admit how far she'd fallen. But last week, desperation won out. She called them in a whispered late-night plea from the restaurant's back alley, her voice breaking as she described Victor's betrayal. "He's making me wash dishes while he dines with her," she sobbed. "And the baby. I don't know how much longer I can do this." The line went silent for a moment, then exploded with fury. "We're coming," Sophia said, her voice steel. "And when we're done, he'll wish he'd never met you." They arrived like a storm front, coordinating their assault with the precision of a corporate takeover. Sophia flew in from Silicon Valley, Isabella from Milan, Gabriella from New York. They checked into a suite at the city's finest hotel, their identical faces, sharp cheekbones, piercing green eyes, cascades of dark hair, turning heads wherever they went. But this wasn't a reunion, it was war. They spent the first day digging into Victor's life, using Sophia's tech resources to hack into his financials, ethically gray, but revenge rarely played by rules. What they found was a house of cards. Victor's millionaire status was built on shaky loans, insider deals, and a web of lies to investors. His restaurant chain was overleveraged, his real estate holdings mortgaged to the hilt, and his affair with Lila. Just the tip of a scandalous iceberg involving embezzlement to fund her lavish lifestyle. Phase 1. Exposure, Isabella declared, her fashion-savvy mind plotting the public humiliation. She leaked anonymous tips to fashion bloggers and society pages, painting Victor as a philandering fraud who abandoned his pregnant wife for a gold-digging mistress. Photos surfaced, Victor and Lila at exclusive events, contrasted with grainy shots of Elena toiling in the kitchen, captured by a sympathetic waiter Sophia had bribed. The internet erupted. Hashtag Victor the villain trended overnight, with memes mocking his rags to riches to rags story. Sponsors pulled out of his endorsements, and his stock in partnered ventures plummeted. Gabriella struck next, targeting his assets. As a real estate mogul, she had connections in every major bank. A few discreet calls revealed Victor's properties were underwater, and she orchestrated buyouts through shell companies. His flagship restaurant, the very one where Elena slaved, was suddenly facing foreclosure notices. Let's see how he likes being served eviction papers, Gabriella smirked, signing off on the acquisitions that would strip him bare. But Sophia saved the knockout punch. Her AI firm specialized in cybersecurity, and she deployed a team to audit Victor's digital footprint. They uncovered emails proving he'd funneled company funds to Lila's account, bribed officials for contracts, and even falsified reports to inflate his net worth. Packaged neatly, this dossier landed in the inboxes of the SEC, the IRS, and every major news outlet. By morning, headlines screamed, "Millionaire mogul Victor Hale exposed. Fraud, adultery, and financial ruin." His phone blew up with calls from panicked investors, lawyers abandoning ship, and Lila, texting furiously that she was done, fleeing with whatever jewelry she could pawn. Victor stormed into the restaurant that Friday, his usual swagger replaced by wild-eyed panic. "What the hell is going on?" he bellowed at the staff, ignoring the diners whispering behind menus. Elena, still at her post, kept her head down, but her heart raced. The door chimed, and in walked the triplets, arm in arm, dressed in power suits that screamed dominance. The room fell silent. Victor's face drained of color as he recognized Elena's features multiplied. 3 times the beauty, 3 times the threat. "You," he stammered, pointing at Sophia. "Who are you?" "We're Elena's sisters," Isabella replied coolly, her Italian accent adding elegance to the venom. "The ones you forgot about when you decided to destroy her life." Gabriella stepped forward, handing him a folder. "Foreclosure on this place. Effective immediately. And that's just the start." Sophia's eyes gleamed. "The feds are on their way. Embezzlement, tax evasion, ring any bells. Your empire crumbles today." Victor lunged toward Elena, who emerged from the kitchen, her apron discarded, belly proud. "You did this. You bitch." But the triplets formed a wall, shielding her. "Touch her, and you'll regret it," Sophia warned, her voice low and lethal. Security, hired by Gabriella, escorted him out as patrons filmed the spectacle, the video going viral in minutes. In the aftermath, Elena moved into a penthouse owned by Gabriella, the triplets rallying around her like guardian angels. The baby, a girl, born healthy weeks later, was welcomed by aunts who spoiled her rotten. Victor, bankrupt, divorced by Lila in a messy countersuit, and facing charges, he faded into obscurity, washing dishes in a dingy diner to make ends meet. Irony, the sisters agreed, was the sweetest revenge. As Elena watched her daughter sleep, surrounded by her unbreakable family, she finally felt free. The destruction was complete, but from the ashes, a new life bloomed, one built on sisterhood, strength, and the unyielding bond of blood. Word count, 1028.